done other interviews so far?
Oh yeah, I've done like four or something. I found this website and there's a lot of, you know, people that are going through this and
Oh,
there's a lot of people excited.
human trafficking. It's got a lot of money involved.
Ex
These judges and lawyers and police, and they're making so much money.
it's
So much money. I think they get like I don't know about other states, but in like Utah, I think they get like 40 grand to take a baby out of the home.
right. Yeah, I was told 30,000 here. The private lawyer we had at one point said 30,000, but I just spoke to a lady in Texas and she said 80,000. So, um,
Well, depending on the state. I know that the legal I talked to when we were going through our crap, she said they get $40,000 to take children.
wow. So was that a lawyer?
It was a paralegal, so she works for a lawyer.
I see. So, yeah, that is interesting that it is common knowledge.
Yeah,
And this is
which is also why this particular lady, her mom is Tracy Sullivan, who happens to uh, be writing for Iron County News, and so she's a journalist, and
yeah.
she's been reporting on it. And man, her and I talked for over an hour, and she told me some stories that would make your skin crawl that these people have done to families that are completely innocent.
Yeah. Well, I believe it. Who was that? Was that the paralegal or?
No, her daughter is the paralegal, but Tracy Sullivan is the journalist for Iron County News.
Oh
And you can
wow.
look up. She interviewed our family because of all the crap that was going on with us, and so she was going to report on it, but because we went the what sovereign citizen route, even though that's an oxymoron and completely ridiculous.
Hmm.
But because we chose to stand in our freedom and use the Constitution and stand by true law, common law, and not this garbage um, you know, uh, codes and statutes bogus system that these police officers and so-called public servants enforce.
Hmm.
Um, she actually was afraid that it would backfire on us and we would lose our baby. So I ended up cutting her off because she was so afraid that her fear was kind of starting to ooze into
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
It was making me, yeah, question whether I wanted to go this route. But then it was like at the same time, it's like, I believe in a heavenly Father, and I felt like I had been guided by His Holy Spirit on what to do with this, and I got such a clear answer that it was like no turning back. And so, and His answer to me literally was, and it was so clear in my head, if you're going to do this, you have to be all in. And I literally had like a vision of me jumping off of a cliff into water.
Yeah, yeah.
And, which is funny because I used to do that in Lake Powell when I was younger, and
Hmm.
it was just very symbolic for me. But I actually had to quit talking to her, and I just told her that things were good,
Hmm.
so that she would quit calling me. But even though we weren't finished, but luckily things did go good. It did end up, shutting down, like as you know. So
Yeah, that's why I'm really excited to share your story too. I've been interviewing a lot of people, and it's been intense hearing other people their stories. I knew, of course, there's a lot of stuff going on, but when you get into the details and the amount of people that are being uh, terrorized and traumatized every day, it is really enraging. And your story is so special because it ended well and it can give people hope and inspiration. Hmm?
you and I kind of went through a lot of this together.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I just can't wait for yours to end well.
Yes, and I I feel that is coming soon too.
I
Um,
just seriously thought you were gonna have those babies in June. It was like clear as day in my head, but I
right.
don't know. When it happens, it'll happen. I'm so excited though.
Yeah,
I'm
there.
just pulling some cookies out real quick. Just a second, Rue. Let
Take
me
your time.
set the timer. My husband made a request today. Please make me cookies. All right.
Oh, that's great.
He loves my cookies. We're very organic, so I
Yeah,
I
they're
make what we call the you can eat chocolate chip cookies with no sugar.
uh-huh. That sounds great. Yeah, homemade cookies are the best,
Oh yeah, yeah, we cook very clean, and so
right?
yeah,
We do too. And that's something that our son in foster care is also experiencing, that how special it actually was, how he was eating, and you know, eating a bunch of crap now.
yeah. It's like you don't know what you have until it's gone, and it makes you seriously appreciate it.
Right?
But he's young. He shouldn't, in my opinion, he shouldn't have had to been put through that.
No.
But at least he is, ironically enough, for his age, mature enough to see that difference, which is super amazing. So
Exactly. Now that it's happened, there's a lot of, wisdom and strength that we're celebrating.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's wonderful. I'm just laying the baby down real quick. Darn it! He heard his brother's voice, so now he's like, "No." Hold on, let me turn his sound machine on because that'll help. He's tired, and it's his second nap time for the day. So,
I'm so glad that you have him and that he's doing well.
um, I'm so glad they weren't able to get him from me. They tried. They did
Oh,
try. Those
I'm I'm ta
wicked people.
I'm talking with people right now that had their babies kidnapped in the hospital over like the most ridiculous reasons.
Yeah.
It's
Oh yeah.
it's funny
You know,
because I am used to my own story, and I know how to deal with it. But when I hear other people's stories, like something starts boiling in me and I barely know what to do with the rage. Also because I know that we are winning. But when I hear other people that have already lost their kids, or don't believe they're getting them back, it's very um
awful.
heartbreaking.
Awful. Well, so um, what I have been learning. So I don't know if you've ever heard of a man named Ammon Bundy, but
No.
he got sued. They're going to actually be putting out a video, or not a video, a movie
Mm-hmm.
about him. And he helped Baby Silas. Look up the story of Baby Silas. That'll answer all questions. But
Uh-huh.
anyway, so Ammon Bundy was a public figure.
Yeah.
His whole story is amazing. He's been through the ringer with the government just for defending his grazing lands they tried to steal from his family. The BLM did, and there was a whole standoff. We call it the something standoff. I'm trying to remember the name. Ah, shoot, it's in Nevada, but anyway, outside of Mesquite,
Oh, I
the
know.
Bunkerville
I think
standoff.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, and so he after his whole court thing, and he was able to and then get their charges dropped because they threw him and his like brother and father and lots of people in jail falsely, and I
Mm-hmm.
think they served like years, like a couple of years. It was total bogus, total false, awful situation. Anyway, well, he ended up getting exonerated, and it got all dropped, and he was able to get free, and he became a very uh, um, common public figure up in like Idaho area after he moved up there. And so what happened is, you talked about the hospital.
Yeah.
There was another mom who took her baby to the hospital, and because the baby happened to be underweight and the mom didn't want to do everything that the hospital wanted to do,
Mm-hmm.
they they literally kidnapped baby Silas. And
Uh-huh.
Ammon used his position and his uh, you know standing with the having a lot of people already kind of following him
Mm-hmm.
because he's running for governor of Idaho, and so he used that position to help get baby Silas back, and it worked.
Oh,
But
that's so cool.
because he uh, ended up exposing the wickedness of that St. Jude's or whatever, St. John's Hospital up in Idaho.
Yeah.
Um, they ended up turning around and suing him for defamation of character and won like a $2 million lawsuit against him, and he lost everything. It wasn't even his baby, and he lost everything getting this baby back for his parents. So they're actually going to be making a movie. They've already made the movie, but they're going to be putting it out soon.
Wow.
It's his whole story. But what's interesting is I actually was just on the phone with him like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
And I do know him. I've actually met him personally. Super nice guy, and super just you could just tell total family man. But he was telling me that through this whole situation, that the state, they're trying, these states, the bullcrap bogus public officials in these states, if you are a fighter, if you give any indication that you are going to be a fighter,
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna kick you in the hiney as fast and as hard as they can and scare the living crap out of you, because they're trying to teach people that your parents aren't the authority, it's the state. The state's
Yes,
the authority. And so if
exactly.
they know you're going to be a fighter, they're going to hit you as hard as they can. And these public servants, these police officers, these self-proclaimed heroes,
Uh-huh.
they know this. They're trained in this.
Oh, yeah.
And so if somebody comes out as a fighter, they're told you're defiant, that you're counter authority, that you're going to be a problem. You're a danger to society, pretty much in a nutshell. And so they target you.
Exactly.
So so I was targeted because I was a fighter, and you were targeted because you were a fighter.
Exactly. That's exactly our experience. You're
Mm-hmm.
being called defiant for anything that isn't like just taking orders.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Well,
in
the thing is, it's interesting because you and I both did try to follow what they asked us to do. And then what did
exactly.
they do? They just got worse and worse and took more and more and more. That we gave them an inch and they took a mile.
Exactly. Also, I think they could feel like they want more than they're asking for. They want basically complete control over you. And even though
Mm-hmm.
I was doing their program, they could feel, they could sense that I'm not actually agreeing with them and ready to, you know, surrender. I
Yeah.
remember it actually felt like they wanted part of my soul. That's how I described it to my husband.
Oh, oh, damn right.
Hmm.
Damn right. You actually said that so just eloquently. Really, they
Yeah.
do. That's what they're after. And
Yes.
that's what I have learned through a lot of this. This is an actual spiritual battle.
Hmm.
And if they can, and who is the most important? I don't mean this in a negative way against the fathers, because they have their role and they're super super important. But
Hmm.
when it comes to children, who is the most important crucial person in the home to take care of them? It's the mother.
Hmm.
So let's attack the mother. Let's
Right.
hurt the mother. Let's scare the mother. Because
Exactly.
then, and because what is she going to do? She would do anything to protect her children, right?
Yeah.
Even be willing to give them up. And that's what
Exactly.
they're counting on.
Exactly. And what I've noticed too is that there's a lot of um, you know, pressure from not just them, but from society too, of people calling you a bad mother or a bad parent for like if you are actually standing up for your rights and you're not, yeah, if you're fighting.
Mm-hmm. Well,
And
they think, okay, well, if DCFS or CPS or CFS, whoever, depending on the state you're in, whatever the title is,
uh-huh,
but they're in their head, it's like, okay, well, what did you do to deserve what's happening to you?
exactly,
And there's no more innocent until proven guilty. If they're involved, oh, you're just guilty, guilty, guilty. There's no
exactly,
real law in this world anymore.
exactly. That's it. I'm actually talking with a lot of people who say that they actually used to think the same way until it happened to them, and they then
Mhm.
realize, okay, so yeah, a lot of innocent people are being targeted here. I think.
Mhm. Well, there's a saying that after all this crud that I learned,
Hmm.
back through until it happens to you, and it's like, these, like I said, self-proclaimed heroes.
Yeah.
They're kidnapping, following orders. Like, no offense,
Hmm.
Nazi Germany, because Nazi's not Nazi Germany anymore, but now the police of our our country are acting like a bunch of old Nazis. Show me your papers, crap. And I'm just following orders. I'm just told to come kidnap your child. I'm not going to question anything. I'm just going to come steal your child from loving parents because that's my job.
Exactly.
And it's like they're the ones who actually are making it worse because they're not standing up. They're not seeing what's happening, and then they're taking these children. And some of them, I guarantee it, based on what I've learned, are getting paid off. They're probably getting bonuses and all sorts of crud. I
Who?
know that DCFS does. I know the judge does.
Yes. Well, it sounds like everyone is making money off of it. The judges, the lawyers,
Oh,
the people
no,
who are providing the services. They're always saying,
mm-hmm.
"Oh, you don't want to do your services." Like the other week, I talked to the social worker, and I was saying, "You are, um, this is child abuse. What you're doing. You keep putting our children in abusive, verifiably abusive foster homes." And she said, "Well, you don't want to do your services." She was. So I said,
It's
"So
your
you
fault.
think
We're
it's
gonna
okay for
abuse your kids for you because you don't want to do your services. Oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, and I pointed it out, and then she started scrambling. But but she's exposing. She's basically saying, "Yeah, we'll torture children and families." The other day, I kept putting pressure on her supervisor, and eventually he said, "Yeah, if we can't get control of the parents, it's all about getting control of the parents and making sure that people are in the system, and otherwise, we will keep doing whatever we need to get that done." Including having kids, getting them in abusive situations.
Mhm. Yeah, it's the wickedness and evil of this is no longer a hidden secret anymore. It's like it's been exposed, and now they're not afraid to shout it from the rooftops because these judges, most of them, I would say 90%, they back this corruption up. They're just as corrupt.
Yeah.
The police officers, the social workers, the CPS workers, the attorneys,
Mm-hmm.
they all work for the same monster, the same system. They pretend for just to keep the game. It's a game. It's like a play, an act
Yeah.
being put out there, and it's sick. It makes me sick.
Yeah. And it sounds
Hey,
like,
I'm gonna lay my baby down. Hold on just a second. Let me see if he'll go down now. So let's just be quiet for just a sec. Sorry. So sorry about that. He was on my shoulder asleep, and he was sweating to my shoulder.
oh wow.
Oh, I love that little munchkin. I can understand why through this process, as my husband and I were going through it, we were doing like you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
talking to people and learning. And there was so many mothers that we were learning about
Mm-hmm.
that had their children stolen, and the state wouldn't give them back, and made their hoop after hoop after hoop and still wouldn't give them back.
And
That it
that's,
was so completely hopeless. They killed themselves. They literally committed suicide.
I believe there's a lot of people that are killing themselves because of what CPS is doing. Like, I'm one of the ladies I interviewed, I could tell she's so depressed because they took her kid, and they already terminated her parental rights, and she was basically saying, like, I don't really have anything to live for anymore. And I think there's a threshold in the collective. Like, they are out of control. They are just stealing kids left and right, and it's only a matter of time for, the truth is coming out. And
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
and your
You know,
stories, yeah.
no, it's like what's interesting is most people that this has never happened to, they don't, even the ones that it is happening to, what they're failing to understand is that the authority these public figures and these judges are claiming to have is a false facade. They
Yeah.
have really no authority. Um, I mean, in all honesty, they claim to be government officials, but actually that is completely a lie,
Hmm.
because their entire program was started by Bill and Hillary Clinton,
Oh
and
yeah.
they created what is called the Safe Families Act.
Hmm.
And it's funded by the government, but they're a private entity paid by the government, and so they're not even real public servants. They have DUNS numbers, and they're corporations. It's all corporations.
Yeah.
And then the judges, they claim that they use the 10th Amendment to be able to override the Fourth Amendment and invade your home and steal your kids. And it's like, as you and I've been learning in this process, going through Emma's route, which
Hmm.
saved my family, um,
Right.
just being able to understand the difference and the lies and being able to stand up against it was empowering.
Right.
And yeah,
And so before you started to do what you did to win your case, you
mhm.
were going along, you were doing the services that they proposed,
Oh yes, no, we went the regular route. We hired a lawyer, and
and it
we were
wasn't
getting
going well, right?
classes. Huh?
And it wasn't going well.
No, no. And I kept emailing my lawyer. I was like, hey, why are they getting away with this? Why are they being allowed to do this? This is not, we're not getting anywhere. But
Hmm.
here's an interesting thing to note. So in the beginning, when this all started, I was calling around to find a lawyer.
Hmm.
And I ended up somehow getting hold of a man who was a retired lawyer who used to deal with family cases.
Hmm.
And this old retired lawyer, he presumed to tell me that he knew I was pregnant because I told him. And he said they're going to keep this case open and they're going to try and take your baby from you.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, why would they do that? We haven't done anything. We have nothing to hide. There's nothing here that they'll shut this down in a heartbeat, right?
Yeah.
And as they continued to ask for and demand more and more and more things from me, and my due date was rapidly approaching, it suddenly dawned on me,
Yeah.
they really are coming after my baby. And that's when my husband and we says, okay, we have to make a radical change. We're going to lose our baby.
Hmm.
And that's when we ended up going this other route.
Hmm.
We fired our lawyer.
Hmm.
We took, that constitutional class. We got a 3-month course
Hmm.
jammed down our throats in 30 days.
Yeah, yeah, you did it quick too.
Oh yeah, and it was terrifying. I mean, you know what it's like. I mean,
Yeah.
they're sitting. I'm going to throw you in jail for 30 days and give you $1,000 fine. And oh wait, hold on. What was your crime again? Who did you hurt? Oh, you did nothing. You just won't sign a 34E form and give the state authority and jurisdiction over your child. I'm
Right.
not signing my child over the state
Hmm.
ever. That's psychotic and unreasonable to ever even ask for any parent.
Right.
I mean, I even took it to the county sheriff, the Iron County Sheriff, Kenneth Carpenter, and I went into him and took him the transcripts and all the threats and everything that they were doing. They
Hmm.
were threatening my husband, trying to scare him into hurting us, and he literally read through it all
Hmm.
and then says, "Well, I guess you better sign it."
Wow.
And I looked at him and I says, "Are you crazy?" I said, "What mother would ever sign away her child?"
Right.
And so it was like I realized right there that these public servants protect their own. There's a club, and we are not in it.
Yeah.
And um, and my husband, I came home and I just bawled. And he
Hmm.
says, "Honey, you knew he was going to do that." And I said, "Yeah, but I had hope. He was, the voted in sheriff, but turns out he's just as corrupt as the rest of them."
Yeah, yeah, you got disillusioned with that they're all part of it.
Yep, and they really are. It's sick. It's so sickening.
Hmm.
And the social worker, I remember asking her one day, as she's forcing me to take all these classes and do all this stuff, and I'm just pretty much asking her, when is this going to end? You just keep asking for more and more and more. And I said, do you think that you can parent my children better than I can? And she said, yes, we think the state can take care of your children better than you can. And I
Wow,
was like,
that's
oh, wow.
interesting that she said it.
Oh, you know what's so fun, though?
Hmm.
This is going to sound funny to say it's fun, but when people are harming your family,
Yeah.
you envision just getting them back, right?
Hmm.
Well, when we started the process with Emma and we repented and rescinded our contracts in court, making anything that had ever been done in court with DCFS and my family null and void, well, it reset everything back to the beginning.
Yeah.
And because of that, she was no longer allowed to come in my home, and I could protect myself. Any agreements were gone. They were done. They were erased, and she was trying to force my husband and I to re-sign papers. And he says, we will never sign anything with you ever again. Let's make that clear. So then they wanted to come make sure that my newborn baby was safe, right?
Yeah.
So they says, well, we're going to come to your home. Well, we were like, okay, you want to see our baby? Then you close the case and you can see our baby. We'll let you see our baby, and then you close the case immediately. Well, she says, I can't do that. Well, we went on like that for I don't know, a week or two.
Yeah.
And out of nowhere, she shows up at our home with the sheriff.
Yeah.
Well, luckily, praise the Lord, we 5 acre property that happens to be fenced, and the gate was shut and locked, and she could not come in with her sheriff.
Yeah.
And so we called Emma and said, what do we do? Emma says, well, just go show her the baby, but you do not let her in on your property in your home. You don't have to. So we go to the gate and we show her my baby. And she says, well, my supervisor says I need to come in and see your home. And I looked at the sheriff. I says, do you have a warrant to come and see my home? He says, no, ma'am. I looked right back at her and I says, then I choose no. And she tried to argue with me, and I laid into her. I says, you know what? I don't answer to you. I'm not afraid of you. I says, you are a public servant. You work for me. I says, the only one I work for is the Almighty God, and I answer to him. And she looked like she was about to pee her pants.
Right.
And left long after that. And the sheriff came over and shook both myself and my husband's hands.
Oh, wow.
Says, I have kids. I get it. And he drove away.
Wow, that's awesome.
It was beautiful. It's like when you find your power and you start standing on it, and Emma teaches you how to do it.
Right.
You're suddenly not afraid anymore. And once you are not afraid anymore, their web of lies and deceit and deception, it falls apart.
That's it. They don't actually have power. They know how to intimidate people into giving away their power. But once you actually start claiming your power, it's amazing how little they actually have.
Exactly.
Their power or their pretend power relies on threats and intimidations, and it's all tricks and manipulations, and yeah. Wow, that's awesome. Even that he congratulated you at the end, I feel that that there's a higher part of all these people that are even part of the system that are actually really excited for people to break this. They're basically enslaved to it.
Yeah, well, we are, because the police are, unfortunately, I call them self-proclaimed heroes. That's because most of them are too scared, because it pays their paycheck, pays their bills, so they're too scared to stand up and do the right thing, which makes them just as wicked and just as guilty as the others.
And they are also scared of getting their own kids taken, I believe.
I agree, but there are a few people that have broken away, that have dared to stand against them. I have a friend named Destry, who ran for the county commissioner in Iron County. He is a retired police officer that has stood for the right. And then there are There's another officer. His name is Eric Mutzos. He
Mhm.
was a bike cop in Salt Lake City area, and they destroyed him because he did not want to ride his bike in the gay parade because it went against his religious beliefs and his values.
Mhm.
And so he had, through their normal system uh, in the police, to where you can trade shifts with another officer, just traded shifts with another officer, and that other officer rode the bike in the parade in his place.
Mhm.
Well, they pretty much called him that was a hate crime pretty much, and they fired him and then smeared him all over the news. And now Mr. Eric Mutzos, you can find him on different platforms, but he now brings awareness to all crime that is out there.
Wow.
And it's beautiful when they wake up and they got all that inside knowledge and they let it out, and then
Yeah.
they become a dangerous thing to these corrupt corporations, and
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh, I love it too, and I really respect it when people do that. And um, yeah, I do feel like there's more and more people who are doing that.
Hmm.
It's a way
Well,
to it's a way to
more
redeem.
people.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. What was that, hon?
Oh, it's a way to redeem also, having been part of an evil system, and there's always you can always start working for the good.
Oh, amen. Absolutely. Amen. Absolutely. Well, so that's another thing that my husband and I learned when we were going through this, because we're homesteaders, we're farmers,
Mhm.
we're homeschoolers, and we're Christians,
Mhm.
and we're white. So, and I know that sounds interesting in a world where we're trying not to have divisive mentality, but believe it or not, white little girls and white little boys are the sought after children
Mhm.
to be kidnapped by the state. That is a statistical fact. And so my son was on the top of the list to grab.
Yeah.
And then they get to top that off, they'll take any baby if they can. But to be honest with you, those are the ones that are in demand for adoption,
Yes.
because that's what people are actively looking for. There's waiting lists.
I've heard
And
this, especially blue-eyed, blonde-haired kids. That's what I was told are extra in
yes,
demand.
yours and my children
Yeah.
specifically. Uh, so anyway, mine actually has almost green eyes. But anyway, not not to brag, he's so beautiful. But anyway, um, what's interesting is the things that they use to target people, and make you more of a target, are those things.
Yeah.
And so my husband and I, we were batting 1,000 to get attacked, and which is ironic, is in their paperwork that they served me.
Mhm.
It stated we had nothing. All the list, it'll say, is there this, is there that, is there abuse, is there this? No reported any of these things. They'd have no, 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 no. And then in the bottom, it would say, lives in an isolated rural area. Yes. And they check marked that and put my home as red, not yellow, which is like possible danger, but red. These children are in danger because they live in an isolated rural area.
Wow.
And that's what they use to go after my family.
Wow. If that's not like blatantly like unconstitutional.
Yeah. Well, and people need to get hold of Emma. I don't know if you're doing it in your podcasts or your interviews where you're giving Emma's information out for these people to call her, but
Yeah.
um, you know, and there is only, you've got to be tough if you're going to do this. If you're willing to stand up and be thrown in jail,
Mhm.
then this is for you, because that very well could happen. Because when you contract with the state, when you agree and you answer the questions, you're contracting, and they're going to throw you in jail and hold you in contempt. I mean, you learned firsthand. You didn't even get to say 2 words before they abused you.
Yeah, a couple of words. Yeah. Yeah. And
So
exactly. And yeah, you still gotta just keep keep going, you know?
yeah.
And they threatened you too when you were doing your thing in court,
Oh
and
yeah,
it went
over and
went
over
well.
again.
Yeah.
I got kicked out of that courtroom so many times. What's interesting is I got lucky
Mhm.
because I was able to not contract with them.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is I kept asking the judge kept saying, there is no contracts, there is no contracts. And it's like, okay, then what is giving you the authority to do what you're doing to me and my family? What gives you this power if
Mhm.
there are no contracts?
Right. And they couldn't
So,
answer, right?
huh?
And they couldn't, or he couldn't answer, right?
Oh no,
Yeah.
never, never. He would just say, "I just have authority," or he would never give an actual explanation. It wasn't until I got the next judge when I finally just got indignant with the first judge and just because he kept saying, everything you're saying is just word salad. And he was getting mad at me because I would respond to his questions with a question.
Mhm.
And then so he actually yelled at me at one point and says, I don't ask you don't ask the questions in this court. This is my courtroom. I ask the questions. And then I responded with, well, where in your laws do I have any legal obligation? And then he was like just pissed off and he's like, everything you're saying is word salad. Um and I says, if you're so incognizant of your own laws, then you need to recuse yourself and bring somebody forward that is cognizant of your own laws. And next thing you know, and then that was right before I dropped that lawsuit on the court. And it was like 3 days later, he recused himself from the case.
Wow.
And yeah, and then when we got the new judge, we decided to hold off going the sovereign route, I guess you could call it,
Mhm.
where you stand on the Constitution and common law.
Mhm.
And we wanted to fill this judge out, give him an opportunity. And he had thoroughly read through our case and what was going on, and he knew what we were capable of. And he himself said, I am a constitutional judge.
Oh, he
And
he
that
said that, huh?
clued yeah, that clued us in right there. Okay, let's give this guy a chance.
Wow.
And I asked him, what gives you the authority to do this? And he said, the 10th Amendment gives me authority to do this. And then that's when I rebutted him and said, how can you use the 10th Amendment to violate the Fourth Amendment?
Mhm.
And then I let him know that, based on the principle of federal preemption, any conflicting state law null and void.
Mhm.
And so all their little prima facie laws that they were claiming to use to violate my home, force me to take all these classes at my expense. And what's interesting is they kept saying, oh, well, the state will pay for it. The state will pay for it. But the thing is nothing is free. If you allow them to pay for these classes, you're contracting with them. You're saying, I agree, and I
Right.
don't agree. So you're not going to pay for this. I'm going to pay for it myself if I have to, if I'm being forced under threat, duress, and coercion to
Mm.
do these things.
Right.
And so we refused to accept any of their hands out, which gave us a better upper hand against them. But the judge, it got to the point in the courtroom where the DCFS kept trying to force themselves into my home.
Mhm.
And I would look right at the judge and I would shake my head.
Yeah.
And he'd look at me and he'd look at them and he'd say, no, I don't think that's necessary.
That's awesome.
And then in the end, after the whole trial and everything, and it was all said and done, he said he was thinking about closing the case. And my husband and I looked at each other like, this is like, what? And he said, I just have some questions. And he was asking all these questions, concerns based on the things that DCFS had brought up. And my husband and I answered all the questions. And when he would turn around and ask the DCFS worker, her questions, she had she had nothing. She
Yeah.
had nothing, and she actually made herself look so stupid. She showed up in this god awful outfit with purple hair,
Uh-huh.
and she looked like the biggest idiot.
Uh-huh.
And here she's supposed to be in there being professional and representing this public
Mhm.
capacity or whatever, and she looked like the biggest idiot. She was unprepared for the case. She sounded stupid, and the judge goes, because they were trying to get me on contempt and throw me in jail and give me $1,000 fine for nothing. Innocent mom, never done anything, never harmed no one, all because I refused to sign a 34E form and sign my baby over to the state.
Yeah.
And the judge, he looks at the attorney, and the attorney, you could just tell he was so done with the case. You could see in his face that he was so embarrassed by this point because they looked so bad when this ended.
Oh my God.
That he says, well, what would you do if I decided to close this case? And he says, well, we drop all charges. And he goes, well, I'm going to close the case. And my husband and I went, oh my gosh, because it was just like we were sitting on our toes and just waiting to jump forward. It was just, oh man.
That's awesome. And I can imagine that also because um you guys went through several tests where it wasn't like the first time you went to court it all resolved. There was times where, like your faith was tested, it seemed like.
Darn right it was. This went on for a solid year. A
Yeah.
solid year. I was thrown out of the court, I think, 3 or 4 times. But the thing is people think, oh, that's so bad. No, you don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
You don't give them what they want. And I didn't get thrown in jail, praise the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
But they threw me out. That means a victory. Even if you
Exactly.
feel like one, that's a victory.
That's it. And that's what people don't always understand with us either, because we don't have our kids back yet, but we are winning.
Yes. Oh, you guys are definitely.
And
And
there's a lot of
moving,
there's a
I'll have
lot of
those people.
victories, a lot of victories that might not look like victories, but we know they're victories.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
And
Yes.
I was really impressed by you when you were going through this. And, it was intense because you get threatened and, it's hard to stay solid in your faith and in your power when, also when you have seen and heard other people get being put in jail and um yeah, but you kept going. You kept going
Yeah.
and you kept going and the result was that eventually the case got closed in a beautiful way, because
Yeah.
sometimes cases close, but what I've noticed, even with other people, is that cases get reopened again and again, sometimes when it's not dealt with right, when they still
Yes.
feel like they can come in again.
Yep. Well, that's because if you don't do it right, you leave the door cracked open.
Yeah.
And so I really hope you leave Emma's number for people or put it access for them, because if they're willing, the thing is what I have learned is you got to be willing to lose everything.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not willing to lose it all,
Mm-hmm.
then you will not win,
Mm-hmm.
because this is a spiritual battle. And there was something that actually took place right towards the end of our case. My
Mm-hmm.
husband and I watched this amazing podcast where this guy, he uses the Bible and the book of Job and a few other scriptures and areas in the Bible to actually talk about the courts of heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And it says what's sealed on earth is sealed in heaven. And so and what people that are lacking in faith or haven't decided if they want to believe in God or not don't understand is that this is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of what you think, regardless of what you feel about it or the way you've been raised, this is a real spiritual thing. This is a real spiritual battle. And until you figure that out, you're just going to keep battling. And you're going to, if you want to win, or not win, you got to get on the right side.
Mm-hmm.
God says, that he will fight the battles for you if you're willing to give it to him. And so my husband and I watched this podcast that talks about the courts in heaven and how what's going on kind of in your life can also be based on things that have happened in the courts of heaven. So if you're contracted on the earth, you're contracted in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And so my husband and I, we took this podcast that we've watched. It's from it's called The Deep End
Mm-hmm.
with Taylor Welsh. But anyway, we watched it. We took what he said seriously, because we thought, what else do we have to lose at this point,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
So we both separately on our own private individual time, we went and got on our knees before God and we said, okay, I'm giving this to you. And we envisioned actually handing it up, our burdens, our trials, the case, the crap, to the Savior to
Mm-hmm.
take and heal and fix. And we said to him in prayer, I can't speak for my husband entirely, but myself, I told God, I said, I repent, and I rescind any and all contracts in heaven that are against me, that are keeping this open here on earth. And
Mm-hmm.
I ask for forgiveness, and I'm so sorry. Please, please fix this for me. And it was ironic because right after I gave it all to God, repented, and rescinded all contracts in the courts of heaven, and it was a deep, long prayer. That following case, it shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Literally the following case, the court date, shut
Right.
it down, done. And then here's an even more deeper thing to confirm this. So they shut that case down. Well, they were trying to force my husband to give his DNA to the court,
Mm-hmm.
and he wouldn't do it. They had already fingerprinted him when they threw him in jail for
Yeah.
10 days with no bail, and he didn't eat for 10 days. And they put him in a solitary confinement and just abused my husband. It was awful. They're so wicked.
Mm-hmm.
Another corporation again. Jails are private. Oh, by the way, all of this was proven in their studies with DCFS and the attorneys in the Bar Association,
Mm-hmm.
that everything they're doing to families with DCFS feeds the penal system.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so my husband had done the same thing. He went in prayer and went before God and the courts of heaven, and cleared all that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he had a court date I want to say 10 days after they shut down the case with DCFS against our family,
Yeah.
and he still had not given them the DNA.
Mm-hmm.
But he paid their fees that they asked for, but he hadn't done the other things that they'd asked for.
Yeah.
And we were really nervous what was going to happen.
Uh-huh.
And they ended up rescheduling his court date,
Mm-hmm.
and set it up as a Zoom call instead of an actual in court date, which was a little weird.
Mm-hmm.
And so he showed up anyway,
Uh-huh.
and the judge shut it all down right there.
Wow. And so,
Just shut it all down. Didn't make him give the DNA, didn't question it, didn't even bring it up.
yeah. Wow.
So
And that was
to
right
me,
after he had done his um repenting and rescinding in the court of heaven.
yes, ma'am. Yes. I'm not going to tell people that that's a be-all answer,
Mm-hmm.
because results come after our trial of faith and effort.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe very strongly that we had been doing our best to follow God. We'd been doing our best to clear our good name
Mm-hmm.
and to fix all the issues, and that was the final kicker for us.
Right.
It wasn't until after we had actually stood our ground in the courtroom. So don't expect to just do that and all of a sudden it's gonna end. There's a lesson to be learned,
It's
but
a
it
part
will
of the
end.
process, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really glad you shared that. I was hoping you would share that because it really touched me when you told me that a while ago. And it's actually I'm still utilizing that. And to me it makes a lot of sense. I feel the truth um of that very deeply. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm really glad you're sharing that. Everything. Everything. Your story is a really good one to give other people hope and inspiration
Yeah, they need it.
because
We live in a dark time.
most people believe like yes you know even once they get disillusioned and they realize it's a very corrupt system, they're like, well, there is no way out of this corrupt system. You have to submit, and otherwise you lose. And um, I'm really excited to show the world the opposite, and what you did was very impressive. What both of you guys did was impressive, and I'm
I'm grateful for my husband, because what's interesting is he actually didn't have to be there for any of this. They were coming after me.
oh yeah,
Literally, the innocent mom who had done nothing,
hmm
committed no crimes. I mean, I'm telling you, it was like I was so confused. I literally was like asking the attorney before we fired him, like, how can they haven't done anything?
Right.
And he would just say, I'm so sorry you're having such a hard time. Blah. He would just talk it away. He wouldn't do anything to stand up for me.
Yeah.
And so my husband didn't even need to be in the courtroom every time. And the judge knew this.
Yeah.
And so what he would try and do is he would try and manipulate my husband against me. And he would say things like, I'm aware that you have a criminal case in the other court,
Mm-hmm.
and he would try and, the Judge Bell and I have been talking. And it's like, oh, wait a minute, you're not supposed to be doing that.
No, he's
That's
given away
not
that.
even legal.
Oh, that is so
So,
illegal.
oh, yeah, but he would say that. He's like, just between you and me,
Yeah, yeah.
But this was after he'd already kicked me out of the court, and then my husband was leaving too, and then he scared my husband into staying. And
Wow.
so they tell you, do not record in the courtroom. It's illegal. Okay, actually, no, it is a public building. It is completely legal. They just try to say it's not, and so
Mm-hmm.
we recorded anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And so um, we 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 were able to beyond the transcripts get information,
Mm-hmm.
that the judge, to prove his corruption pretty much. And so my husband and I, once we figured out that they were going to try and pit him against me, my husband knew that he needed to be strong. And I remember there were so many times we would go into the court and it would come down to like, what do we do? This is a fork in the road. And I remember always looking at my husband, and he would look at me and he'd give me a little nod, and I just knew what he was saying, and we would move forward with the process that we were going.
Yeah.
And it worked out every time. But I remember that it was so important to get certain things stated on record in the court.
Yeah.
And I remember at one point I wasn't giving the judge what he wanted, so he told me to leave the courtroom.
Yeah.
And but there was a few statements that I needed to get out on record.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said in the court, so he's told me to leave at this point. He's now ordered the bailiff to escort me out.
Mm-hmm.
And now this sheriff in the court is now, armed and coming at me.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally stood up and bent down into the microphone so that it was clear on record. And I said, all rights and decision making of my office are mine, in the present, always in the present. And then I turned around and walked out of the court.
Wow.
So what I hadn't realized, because I was so focused on getting that out on record,
Right.
is that my husband had actually stood between the bailiff and me to protect me and keep him from stopping me from speaking.
Oh, wow. What teamwork.
And they didn't hurt my husband. They didn't arrest him, and we were able to get out of there. And it was like he was so determined to make sure that I was safe that he was willing to stand between that sheriff and me.
Even after he had been arrested and tortured in jail.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's very powerful.
Yep.
Wow.
And that's one thing that I think made them weak.
Mm-hmm.
Is they were trying to divide us, because divided you are weak.
Right.
But instead of dividing us, we got stronger.
That's
we came
it. And that's what me and my husband are doing too. From the beginning, it's amazing the amount of pressure there has been for us to separate. Like, one is, how can you call yourself anything that tries to, do good things for families when you try to break them up in the beginning, right away. And
you know what's interesting? I have it on record.
yeah,
I remember the what do they call them? The advocate for the children. What do they call that?
yeah,
The children's advocate or whatever.
yeah, the children's attorney.
Yeah, so pretty much the attorney for the children. Yeah. So he made a comment about something, and I remember the judge responding to him saying, "Yeah, I don't think she needs to divorce her husband." And I remember looking at them, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Wow. Well, that is basically the first thing right after the kids got taken, I went to the first court date, and they said, if you have to stay away from your husband completely, you have to separate him, and then you might get your kids back. Otherwise, there's no chance. I was like, whoa, what is,
Mm,
how is it a lawyer saying this to me? Like, why?
yep.
And like, how is this legal? How?
No, they forced my husband out of our home for the first 4 months,
Whoa.
and I remember when he finally got back in the home. Um, we still had the attorney this whole time, and he was telling us to just comply, do as they say, whatever. And I remember, oh, my boss is calling. Hold on just a sec. I'll call you back. I'll call back. But anyway, I remember um, he they forced him out of our home for 4 months, and because he didn't have anywhere to go. My husband went to our other property where we just had a storage container, and he slept in the middle of the freezing cold winter in a
Oh,
storage container in like 20-degree weather.
wow.
You
That
know, and
is so intense.
that's just so. I look back at that and what they put my poor husband through, and
And that's
he's still
supposed to be
to
like,
me.
that in itself shows like you guys are calm, like how can you pretend that you um are doing anything good for children and families?
Mm-hmm. And they're not. They didn't. My children would ask the social worker over and over again, please stop, please stop. I
Hmm.
want you to go. Please leave my family alone. And then the attorney, so once we got the new judge, I would no longer correspond with the social workers. I wouldn't even answer their text messages. In fact, I started telling them, you text me again and this is harassment, I'm going to sue you. And so I actually have a lawsuit DCFs right now, that I'm going to be wrapping up with their insurance soon and hoping to get
Oh,
a decent
good.
settlement out of their bonds. But anyway, which Emma can teach people how to do that as well. But I remember the because I wouldn't deal with DCFS anymore, and the judge knew I would, and
Yeah.
because I refused to contract with them,
Hmm.
um, the judge asked the children's attorney to meet with me in a public place with my kid.
Hmm.
And I remember he looked at the judge and he goes, "Me?" He
Uh-huh.
was like, and
Oh,
he
wow.
says, "You think you're just fine?" And he
Uh-huh.
made the children's attorney meet with me when that's not even his job at all.
Right.
And I remember him sitting down with my kids, and he says, "Well, what would you guys like to see happen?" And they're like, "We want you to close this case." And then what's ironic is we get into the court the next time,
Hmm.
and the attorney is sitting there saying, "I think we should keep this going on longer," and all this stuff. And it's like, if you really are for the children, and the children are begging you to go away,
Yeah.
why are you not listening?
Exactly. And why is these children's attorneys always say the same thing? They are always against the parents. I have never heard something else. They're like robots. And like, even our son has been trying to get in touch with his attorney for a while, and it's just not possible. He wrote letters, we contacted everybody, and he is not able to talk to his lawyer.
Oh yeah, no, because they're not for the kids. They've never been for the kids. It's all of show. It's like I don't know. Emma explains it so well, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but it's just a play.
Yeah, it's a
It's
play.
they're
They're
putting on a
actors.
show, a play, and a facade. And the only reason that they get angry when people like you and I are strong and we stand up is because we are educating the other people in the courtroom, and they don't want that.
Exactly. Even when I spoke in court and they arrested me, like the whole court was freaking out. Every word I spoke, like everybody, like they're all kind of in a certain movie script that they're used to. And as soon as I started doing something different, everybody turned their heads, started like panicking, really.
Oh
And
yeah,
like
oh no, the
every
facade
word I said,
in the court.
when I was like, whoa, why you guys are so scared? If I'm not making sense, if I'm incompetent, as they tried to label me. Why are you so scared of every word I say?
Because you are going to educate the masses, and
Hmm.
that's bad for them because then that messes with all their paychecks, which is interesting. Speaking on paychecks, so Emma actually turned me onto a website. I don't have it on the top of my head right now, but she says, I'm going to take you to a website because my husband was questioning some things. My husband put her through the ringer, questioning everything, which I'm glad he did because she held strong and she was proven right every time.
Hmm.
But it also taught me. And since I was the one having to speak in court, I needed that.
Hmm.
And so she took us to this website, and she says, "What's your social security number?" And he's like, "I'm not giving you my social security number." And I said, "Well, take mine." So I give her my social security number, and so my husband pulls up the website, or and she tells him where to go. So he plugs in the website, plugs in the social security number, and there's my name, all my information,
Hmm.
my social security number, and the court case
Yeah.
that we were going through, and that there was a 30-year note on that court case, and they were making $5,000 a month off of me
Oh,
for the next
wow.
30 years on that court case.
Even after the case is closed?
It doesn't matter. Once they've got it started, it's on Duns and Brad. They have a Duns number. It's all a corporation. It's all money. It's not even a real court of law. I mean,
Yeah.
it's disgusting. But anyway, if you were to plug in my husband's name and
Hmm.
social security number, plugged in my children's name and their social security numbers, they all would come up.
Oh,
They
wow.
made per month off of my family $20,000 per month
Hmm.
just under the table with the bonds, these
Wow.
bonds that they fill out, that the court clerk fills out and turns in. They're like an SF 24 and an SF 24B or something form. They fill out these forms
Yeah, yeah.
and they go after these bonds behind the scenes,
Hmm.
which is complete tax fraud.
Yeah.
And then they make, so $20,000 a month is what they were making on my family, just that for the next 30 years. So just in 1 year, take 20
Yeah. 200,
times 12 months, they made what,
220,000.
$240,000, yeah,
Yeah.
in 1 year off of my family.
Wow. And this is also starting to, because they want to make you sound crazy and paranoid. They're like, okay, so, and other people have told me this too. They're like, so everyone is in on this and like, everyone is lying. That sounds a little paranoid. But once
No,
you
well,
start
well,
realizing
go
that
ahead.
the whole system and everybody's making money off of it, it's starting to make sense.
Well, the thing is the lower downs, like the actual social worker themselves,
Hmm.
they really don't know. They don't know.
Yeah.
And as it goes up a little bit, the knowledge becomes more transparent.
Hmm.
But these social workers, they get bonuses
Hmm.
at the end of the year, depending on children they take out of the home. It doesn't specifically say you get this bonus for taking the children out of the home, blah blah blah. They just get these bonuses.
Yeah, yeah.
So so they inadvertently are involved, but a lot of them are ignorant, just dummies that
Hmm.
don't have a clue, that are just after the money and the paycheck, and they like the paycheck, and if I do this, so I get a paycheck. And so they're, some of them are just ignorantly um, getting it.
Hmm.
Whereas you get higher up to the judges and the attorneys, and that higher up, oh, they're totally aware,
Hmm.
totally aware.
Right. That's what it seems like to me, just from my personal experience even.
Yeah, and even the cops are they're just dumb, blind order followers. They don't know, they don't know,
Yeah.
but
Once you
they
get
think,
further up,
just like,
once I talked
huh?
to the once, but higher up, they starting to know more. Like the detective that was in charge that day that they took like our son, and I kept interrogating him. He eventually said, "Yeah, we don't really care about this. We just want you in the system. It's all, he started saying the truth,
Yeah, they
but
all eventually will, because it's like you can only keep that crap in for so long.
that's it. And
It
when you
come out.
keep putting consistent pressure, the truth comes out, and that's what I realized with them too. And yeah, I agree. I think the lower you are on that, hierarchy, the less they know. Um, they're more like tools. I was
They are.
also
They're just a means to an end.
yeah.
They're like an ignoramus. They're just somebody who's stupid, following orders,
Hmm.
thinks that they're special and doing something good, but really they're not. They're harming families.
We were actually comparing, we wrote CPS about that. We were comparing the way that they talked to the Nazis. You know how they had Amtssprache? It was their language of non-responsibility, and how nobody ever has any responsibility, and how the structure is designed for nobody to have responsibility while committing serious crimes.
Yeah, because they're what is it called? What is it? They have uh, what is it that police officers have that
Impunity.
know that they can't. It makes it so you can't sue them directly. Um, oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. Darn it. Anyway, so you can sue the department, but they themselves, the police officers that are doing the harming, these public servants that are doing the harming, are protected, and so you can sue the department. You can sue the state, but all our tax dollars end up paying the bill.
Hmm.
It's the to get real results. We have to figure out how to go after these public servants directly,
Yeah,
personally, because they are the ones that are causing the harm in ignorance.
yeah,
And
exactly.
so if their assets were liquidated and they went to jail for what they did, for literally kidnapping and abuse and breaking and entering when they step into somebody's home that they're not supposed to, and going through their home without a search warrant, violating, the Fourth Amendment. If they, these are oath takers that
Mhm.
violate their oaths
Right,
left and right. They make me ill.
right.
And if we could go after them personally and
Yes.
liquidate their assets and have them thrown into jail
Yeah,
for their crimes against humanity,
right.
literally,
That's it.
then these public servants, they would think twice
Hmm.
before doing what they do to them.
Exactly. Exactly. That's why when we are talking to any of these people, we call them by their name, and we're putting the personal responsibility on them. Every time I talk
It's
to the social worker, I say, you are abusing our kids. You are abusing their kids, our kids.
I said that to the social worker too. I remember I said, "You think you're helping my child by taking a nursing infant away from her mother or
Right?
his mother?
It's
You
complete.
are
Like,
wicked.
I
You're a
we
wicked
keep telling
woman."
them too, like, there's no sane person in the world that believes what you're saying, you know? You have a track record of like nonstop lying and abuse.
Mm-hmm.
It's so
Yeah.
clear. And
Yeah.
the more people are exposing this truth, there is an enormous power in people coming together.
Yeah, but I really honestly believe that if we can go after these public servants at
Yeah.
a personal level for
Yes.
violating their oaths, violating the Constitution,
Right.
and literally breaking laws, they're breaking laws by doing what they're doing.
Right.
And if we could go after them, I think it would really start making some heads spin, which is what we need. We need people to stop and
Right.
think and quit being just blind order followers. Because, like you said, some of them, some of them actually are good people, but they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Well, you know what you need to do? You need to stand up. You need
Yeah.
to start doing what's right. You need to start doing the hard thing.
Mhm.
And if your job is causing you to harm American people, I am not. I'm not a citizen. I am a freaking American. Thank you very much. So don't label me a slave under the 14th Amendment citizen. I am an American on the American continent.
Right.
And it's like quit making me less than what I am, and quit treating me like a slave and just a means to an end. Money laundering. I mean, these pirates.
Mhm.
It makes. Oh my gosh, I just get angry.
Oh yeah, it's there's an art to managing the anger, to keeping
Yeah.
the anger effective. That's what we're aiming for, like
Yep.
wherever keeps it effective and not makes us burn up, you know?
Yeah. Oh, amen to that. Yeah, no, I've had to just stop and go, okay, God, I will do what I can. You teach me what I need to do, and I will do it.
Right.
Other than that, everything out of my hands, out of my control, I'm giving to you. Take it from me so that I don't have to have this eat it.
Right.
So,
I was
and
also
thankfully,
wondering,
I don't know what I'd do if I didn't have my Lord and Savior,
right?
honestly.
I was also wondering, you know, after we both learned the same stuff, constitutional um, rights, um, aren't you, i- you know, just isn't it amazing to realize how useless lawyers are? That like none of the lawyers that I have ever used
And then,
anything. I
oh my
can't
gosh,
believe
yes,
that they don't even think of saying, for example, the sheriff's department came onto private property without a warrant. Then they came into our house without a warrant. Um,
yeah, both of
and
them
no
in
lawyer
violation
ever thought
twice.
of saying, "Hey, that is like totally illegal." I'm like, they're not doing anything. And this is what I keep hearing from other people too. And people keep putting their trust in these lawyers and shell out lots of money, but they're
Because they don't know what
consistently,
else to do.
yeah.
It's like if you're it feels like a hopeless journey,
Mhm.
down a nowhere street because you don't know what to do. And that's why people need to learn to stand up. And that's why they need to get in contact with Emma,
Mhm.
and they need to learn the true Constitution. They need to know what prima facie is. So just because you can learn something
Yeah.
is not the same as understanding it. They need to understand,
Right.
because I mean, anybody can memorize something and regurgitate it like it's taught in a public school system,
Mhm.
to be these blind followers. But in reality, when you understand
Mhm.
who you are and what they are, and the, like, literally, think about it this way: if you refuse to sign things, they
Mhm.
have nothing. Don't sign anything ever.
Right.
Don't agree ever. Use the Fifth Amendment that was given to us by our founding fathers to remain silent.
Mhm.
Speak only when it is absolutely necessary, and only get to the point. Don't give a lot of extra information. Don't think that you're going to be able to let them in your home, schmoozy them, talk to them, tell them what a wonderful parent you are, that's going to end it for you. It's not. What you're doing is you're building them a case, because they're going to take your words and they're going to manipulate them and twist them and use
You're
them against you in a court of law.
giving them
Of
power. You're
law.
basically giving
You
them
are giving them power.
jurisdiction.
Yes.
You're saying
Like,
what you think matters and what they think doesn't matter at all. Like
they
in the
don't care.
criminal court, they're trying to tell me that based on that they have different ideas of how people should live, they have a right to have my kids. Like my attorney said, yeah, the public defender really thinks that she grew up differently. She thinks it's not okay for kids to travel around and have an alternative lifestyle. I'm like, so that's her opinion? You're saying that I am like maybe put in prison with a felony because she has a different opinion? I said, I don't care about opinions. I care about the law, and the law doesn't say anything about that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
we're just talking about people like putting their opinions on my family and think that they can rip apart a whole family for years based on opinions.
Yep, yep. So, I mean, it's just like, think about the communist agenda.
Right.
What is the best way to take over a people? You start with the children. You
Yeah.
start with the dumbed down schools,
Right.
public schools, and then the ones that don't want to conform to that type of lifestyle, like your home and my home,
Mm-hmm.
and they then go and attack you using, you're an alternative source of whatever, like you were just saying, an alternative lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
From my family, we raise our own food because we don't believe in eating all those toxic filled chemicals and high fructose corn syrup and seed oils and all that stuff that literally kills your body and causes inflammation. And so we raise our own food. Well, that's frowned upon.
Yeah.
That's not okay. And
Exactly.
then because we homeschool, we let our kids be self thinkers and problem solvers. Oh, no, 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 that's not okay.
Right.
And so you're targeted, and it is easier to stick your head in the sand and turn a blind eye, and most people don't give a crap.
Hmm.
about any of this until it happens to them.
That's it. And then they start realizing. And that's what's
Mm,
happening right now. I think it it does seem like things are getting out of control more, and different layers of society are becoming aware of what an issue it is. It's not just, happening to certain kind of people anymore. It seems to,
it's happening to everybody, it seems like. It
yeah,
doesn't matter at this point. It's like there's this huge divide that's happening in our country where it's like you either conform or you don't. You don't conform, okay, we're going to do this to you and we're going
yeah,
to force you to conform.
right.
You know, it started with the whole fake pandemic that happens and trying to force everybody into these, you know, face diapers. It's so
Yeah,
funny.
right.
I was teaching biology at that time. I was a biology professor, an adjunct, just part time, nothing special.
Hmm.
But I remember like going into my boss and I says, here all these people they're forcing us to wear masks, which I refused. I wouldn't wear one, and that infuriated them. And I'm like, why would people take this experimental chemical concoction of their body? You haven't even figured out what's in it. Did you even ask what's in it? I mean, seriously, one of the key habits of a scientist, as a biologist teaching science to my
Hmm.
students, is to ask the right questions. And nobody questioned anything. It was like everybody's running off a cliff
Hmm.
and nobody stopped to go, hey, why are you going that direction? It's a cliff. And so we're living in this, it's like they've been testing the waters, testing the levels. Okay, these people did not conform. These people did not comply. We're going to go after them.
Hmm.
And whether it's on a real tangible level or a spiritual level, like I was saying earlier, it's happening. There
Hmm.
is a divide happening, and
Right.
it's real.
That's it. That's interesting. I didn't know you were teaching biology too, but I
Yeah, I
remember
taught
I
for 5.5 years. I loved it.
that's so cool. I studied
Yeah.
psychobiology in Holland, and I remember that even the professors back then said not to trust um, a lot of things because scientists are being paid to by pharmaceutical companies to manipulate data into whatever is favorable for them producing drugs, and that's why they made it very clear. And that's also what happened with vaccines, where it's crazy that
Mhm.
you're not even
Well,
allowed to question
just
anything.
even like common sense. Like if somebody was to go in and actually, you know, just Google search what is a vaccine, how do you make a vaccine, they would immediately learn that what they were proposing as a vaccine was far from that because it was an mRNA shot.
Hmm.
Okay, so a vaccine, first of all, the vaccines that we even have now aren't even legit vaccines anymore.
Yeah.
Everything used to start with a weakened specimen
Yeah.
and it was called inoculation.
Right.
And then, they would inoculate the person, their immune system would kick in, and they would build up antibodies to fight it.
Yeah.
This whole thing that they pushed on everybody, has been mRNA stands for messenger ribonucleic acid.
Hmm.
That is not a broken down form of the,
No,
whatever being put on the body to inoculate it to build up an immune system. That is part of the DNA
it's
being
something that
injected into your DNA.
is being
And then they have
exactly.
then they have another ingredient called transinfectase, and what that does is it takes your cell and it makes it into that mRNA making machine. And so for the rest of your life, once you get that shot, you are now making that in your cells, that mRNA in your cells for the rest of your life. And they're claiming that's how they're going to fight it. Well, guess what? Everything everything changes,
Hmm.
evolves.
Right.
And in the world of biology, this is why they say, penicillin and things like that are no longer working because that bacteria has evolved and
Hmm.
it's got, it anyway, tangent. But long story short, why would anybody in their right mind ever want that? Well, they don't. They were just stupid enough to go get it,
Hmm.
and then they found out later what it was because they didn't bother to ask. They
Right.
didn't question.
That's it.
I don't know why it's so hard anymore to just ask a question.
Oh, you get completely blasted and attacked for asking questions, while that's the basis of real science.
Yeah, you're right, because I do remember when I was a student before I had graduated, there was one particular professor I had. Nobody dared to raise their hand and ask her a question because she would literally tell you in front of the whole class, "You're an idiot."
Mhm. Wow.
And I remember, like, I had a question because I didn't fully understand something, and I raised my hand. I had my hand in the air, and another student had asked her a question, and she literally said, "You're an idiot." And my hand went right down.
Wow.
Okay, I don't need to ask my question.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like that you shut people down. They're not gonna, you tell them they're stupid.
Mhm.
They're not going to question authority. They've got a white coat on. They've been through 10 years of school. They know what they're talking about.
Mhm.
Okay, like you said earlier, these doctors are being paid off. These studies are being paid off. So, you always question the science. You question, okay, who funded this research and where did that come from,
Mhm.
And so it's like, but people they don't do that anymore. It's like even like a judge, is up there in the front on this like high pedestal area.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
up above everybody else, so you have to respect his authority. Well, actually, he is a public servant,
Mhm.
and when you separate yourself from that fiction straw man, the legal fiction that they have created for you. I mean, and this is just like a thing, common sense for people to think about. You know, like I tell people all the time, take out your driver's license, your social security card, and your bank cards.
Mhm.
What does it say on there? What is your name stated like?
Mhm.
And they say, well, it's all caps. Well, why is your name in all caps? Well, I don't know. Well, because think about this. That's called the legal fiction. If you actually look up the Chicago Manual of Styles, which is one of the law books that attorneys and lawyers and stuff learn from, it actually talks about how that is it's a fiction. It's not real. They call it the straw man. It's another word for it.
Mhm.
And it's a character that has been created to put your name into a system to do business with.
Mhm.
So, but that's not you. That's not the life spirit living you. That's just this thing that was created on paper to do business in a fictional world.
Right.
And so they have taken that to a whole new level, and they've created all these things against that name, hence the reason they were able to take my social security number and my case number and go and make all this money on the Duns and Bradstreet, whatever. Go look up the Duns. Like, people need to go look it up, but anyway. And they were able to go make all this money behind my back
Mhm.
without my permission, because somewhere in my life, by my parents filling out a birth certificate or a social security card or whatever, somewhere in that, from the time I was born till now, they have been able to claim jurisdiction over my legal fiction, my
Right.
name.
Mhm.
Not me, the life spirit, the human flesh, but that name.
Right.
And they've made it into an all caps. And so, and people assume that because they read that name on something, that that's them.
Mhm.
When reality is, that is not you. That is this legal fiction that was created in your name, and you don't have to claim it.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it from this perspective. I could go sue my neighbor, just create anything I wanted, just this legal fiction thing, and go sue him and say, well, I'm suing you for this just because, and that's literally what they're doing. It doesn't make sense. And you're like, oh, that doesn't make sense. You can't go just do that to your neighbor. It's like, well, how would the court know? How would they know any difference? I'm going to go take their name, put it in all caps, start a court case, say this, and I'm going to go sue them.
Mhm.
I'm just going to create this thing, and I'm going to go that route, right?